Lesson 111. In this lesson, we learn a new word of the second declension, and that's ager. But there's something special about this word. With the word ager, there's a slight difference between the nominative singular and the genitive singular forms. The nominative singular is ager, and the genitive singular is agri. In the paragraph below the chart, I talk about the genitive stem. We can find the genitive stem by taking the genitive singular form and removing the ending, which in this case is the letter I. After we remove the ending from agri, which is the genitive singular, we're left with agr. So we can make all 10 second declension forms of the word ager by adding the second declension endings to the genitive stem. So the basic idea is this. Whenever you think about the word ager, you have to think about the nominative singular form and the genitive singular form. Remember that ager is the nominative singular, but the genitive singular is agri. Remove the ending from the genitive singular, and that gives you the genitive stem. Then you can make all the other forms of ager. Let's get some practice with the word ager by looking at our exercises. In exercise number 1, we have 2 clauses, one before the word quod and one after. In the first clause, arant is the verb, pueri is the subject, and agros is the accusative plural form of our new word for this lesson, which is ager. So that first clause will say, the boys are plowing the fields. In the second clause, potest means he, she, or it is able, but we don't need the he, she, or it because agricola is the subject of that clause. Laborare is an infinitive that means to work, and non is negating potest. So number 1 will say, the boys are plowing the fields because the farmer is not able to work. In number 2, ambulant is the verb, filii is the subject, agricolae is a genitive singular that's possessing filii, a casa is a prepositional phrase, and ad agrum is a prepositional phrase. So number 2 will say, the sons of the farmer are walking from the house to the field, or the farmer's sons are walking from the house to the field. In number 3, we have the word said, dividing the sentence into 2 clauses. In the first clause, desiderant is the verb, pueri is the subject, and pecuniam is the direct object. In the second clause, amant is the verb, and we'll need to use they as the subject because there's no other word in that clause to be the subject. Agros is the direct object, and arare is an infinitive that means to plow. So number 3 will say, the boys want money, but they do not like to plow the fields. In number 4, delent is the verb. That means they destroy or they are destroying. Bestii is the subject. Silvai is a genitive singular possessing bestii. Casas is the direct object. And agricolarum is a genitive plural that's possessing casas. So number 4 will say, the beasts of the forest are destroying the houses of the farmers, or the beasts of the forest are destroying the farmers' houses. In number 5, the word said divides the sentence into 2 clauses. In the first clause, timent is the verb, weary is the subject, and bestias is the direct object. In the second clause, timent is the verb, bestii is the subject, weros is the direct object, and non is negating timent. So number 5 says, the men fear the beasts, but the beasts do not fear the men. In number 6, desidero is the verb, in insula is a prepositional phrase, and manere is an infinitive that means to stay. So number 6 will say, I want to stay on the island. In number 7, we have 2 clauses, one before quod and one after quod. In the first clause, edificamos is the verb. That means we build or we are building. Murum is the direct object, and circum casas is a prepositional phrase. In the second clause, desideramos means we want or we long for. There are 2 direct objects, viros and feminasque. Patriae is a genitive singular that's possessing viros and feminasque, and servare is an infinitive that means to guard. So number 7 says, we are building a wall around the houses because we want to guard the men and women of the homeland. In number 8, Sunt is the verb, and that comes first. That makes me suspect that it could be translated as there are. There are two subjects, agricolae and puerique, and in agris is a prepositional phrase. So number 8 says, there are farmers and boys in the fields. In number 9 we have two clauses, one before quod and one after. In the first clause we have possum, that means I am able. It's negated by the word non. Navigare is an infinitive that means to sail, and ad insulam is a prepositional phrase. In the second clause, habeo is the verb, that means I have. It's being negated by non, and scapham is the direct object. So number 9 says, I am not able to sail to the island because I do not have a boat. In number 10, possumus means we are able. It's being negated by non. Navigare is an infinitive that means to sail, and there are two prepositional phrases, sine nautis and ad insulam. So number 10 says, without sailors, we are not able to sail to the island.